Yes. Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TX 2018. Why UX is the new cat picture. It's going to be a tremendous presentation here. I got to excuse myself. I have a sore throat, so I might not finish the whole presentation. That's either because I'm sick or because the whole thing is getting a little bit awkward here. But first of all, I want to have a little recap of last year's TX 2017 cat picture presentation. That was amazing. I think it was the most educational of all the presentations. This is, by the way, a live video of last year's crowd. You all remember that situation. Now, I think we learned two main things last year. The first one was the RCP, the concept of the random cat picture. Put them wherever possible. I hope you did that. If I look at your last year's EBITDA numbers, I'm not so sure you did. And the second one, maybe even more important, is that Christoph Brandt looks a lot like Luke Skywalker. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this year we're going to talk about UX, usability. I'm sorry, it's not about your X. That's something we're going to talk about at TX 2019. It's UX, also spelled like this. And we head right into introduction. I will talk about how a typical product process looks like, what UX, it's a very complicated concept. We're going to talk about how Tamedia really succeeds at good usability, how not to UX, it's also an important topic. And in the end, I want to spend some good time on cats in UI design. So, what is UX, ladies and gentlemen? It's quite complicated. You're all wondering, you hear those words all around. There are conferences, there are agencies, there are consultants, there are even UX talks. And there are people that call themselves UX designers and ask for $200,000 a year. If anyone in here is a UX designer, please talk to your boss tomorrow. You should really ask for at least $200,000 unless you're called Martha, right? Now, the answer is quite simple. UX means, and you're all now in the wow effect, UX means user experience. It's basically the overall experience of a person using a product, such as a website or a computer application, especially in terms of how easy or pleasing it is. It can also mean when mommy and daddy love each other very much, but we're going to talk about this at TX 2019. Now let's take a minute and have a look at this tremendous random cat picture here. Now the next slide is probably the only actual meaningful slide in this whole presentation. It says we do not see things as they are, we see things as we are. And now this is the biggest issue we have, we the product people. We always run out there, we talk to customers, we try to convince our stake and shareholders that this is the way we should develop the product, but nobody listens. Let's have a look at how a typical product process looks like these days. It usually starts with the CPO, it's the Chief Product Officer, how he defines the product that should be developed. He puts a lot of thoughts into this, like a lot of research. And then there's the CEO, he doesn't like it, he decides on personal preferences, I don't like it. You see the voice, I don't like it, that's usually how he goes. And then there's a UX team, they spend about 2 months on expensive user research and fake tests. Then we have a designer, they spend like 4 weeks to find the right font and the color magenta. And then in the end, the CTO deploys something else. Now this is very serious, ladies and gentlemen. Now the typical process, it looks like a stream, it's not, it's very complicated. There are things flowing around, there are a lot of stakeholders all around the place. Of course, no one wants to talk to the designer, he's out. And then in the end, the CTO deploys something else. Now, UX is often confused with a lot of things. There is UI, there's AI, there is customer centricity, there is nothing, there is service design, we have design thinking, we have big data, this one's my favorite, there's blockchain, there is ESPN, and basically in the end, it's all the same. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you put in some words like startups or agile, you got your presentation going right there. And this brings me to the first very important concept. It's the concept of the RCW. It's the random, complicated word. You should add that to every presentation. It really enhances your EBITDA game. Now, it's not funny because you got to pay attention. There's also the RCW, the random cat word. We're going to talk about this at next year's TX 2019. Now, my colleague Marcel, not the monkey, but this guy, he came up with a tremendous theory. We can now linearly combine basis hypers to construct every hype in the complex hyperspace. So far, so good. You know your math. I mean, we have to observe that hypes are very complex, need a lot of imagination, blah, blah, blah. Basically, AI, UI, and UX together with the identity matrix I, these vectors are called hypers. All logic, you know it. The outcome is basically this, and that's quite interesting. If you apply AI before UI, it's a different outcome than if you apply UI before AI, and the difference is UX. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not the same if you apply UI methodologies followed by AI methodologies compared to apply AI methodologies followed by UI methodologies in your product development. My throat. The difference turns out to be exactly the UX, and now, which is really interesting according to him, to observe that our construction is very similar to Pauli matrices in quantum mechanics to describe spin 1/2 particles. It's a different story, but the outcome is we talk about quantum mechanics here at TX 2018. Let's give it a hand. Let's give it a hand to Marcel. Great. Now, I want to go off with a very inspirational quote. It's some of us talk about other people and what they do and la la la, but I'm not that person by Mariah Carey. Now we talked about UX. Now we talked about UX being about good experience. It's not about the good looks. It's very important. Here at Tamedia, we really live up to that promise. That's the wrong slide. Now, how not to UX, ladies and gentlemen. I'm too quick. How Tamedia succeeds at UX. So Tamedia has a great and long history of tremendous product development. We have some of the best products in Switzerland out there. But it's not just our online products, it's also what we experience here in the building. So usually it starts in the morning, you go to this door, there's this ensemble of camera, loudspeakers, like an ashtray kind of thing. You use your badge, which is really interesting in 2018. The door opens automatically, you're in this in-between thing, then you use your hand. Now that makes sense. And then when you want to go out, you use this button, and there's a clear documentation. It's like a game. We really love it. That's good UX. Now, let's talk about the intranet, ladies and gentlemen. We love to intranet. By the way, most of the screenshots will be in German because we don't care about you English-speaking people here. So, the telephone book, if you want to look for someone, it asks you first or last name, which completely makes sense. Otherwise, you would find people way too easy. That's bad for data privacy. That's great UX. Then most of you've gotten this email. It's one of my favorite emails. It's where experience starts. It was about a test you should do to really learn about phishing emails. You got to make sure that you know what phishing emails are. You don't fall into this trap. So the first rule was never trust a mail without personal form of address. Of course, the email did not. That can happen. But the second rule was never trust a mail that sets a deadline. I mean, there was a deadline. But the third and most important message was never trust a link that sends you to a login page. There's a login page. Ladies and gentlemen, if you actually did the test, you failed the test. That was a test in the test. You'll get that blue letter. You're out. Now another favorite of mine is the linking way in the intranet. So if you find a link down there, it's actually just words spelled to each other. It's not a link. The good thing there is it's like a concentration exercise. You have to remember how to get there. Another favorite is our lamps. You remember the Wi-Fi lamps. If you're probably 2 meters high, you can even switch them on. Most interestingly was in the beginning, we had these billions of Wi-Fi spots there. That was good because more is better. Then someone really had a good idea how to call our most famous Wi-Fi spot. It was lamp plus Wi-Fi equals pile of shit. But one of my most favorite exercises, no, not exercises, experiences here at Tamedia is when you go down to Verdino, it's 11:30, you look at your watch and you think, hey, should I get the pasta, should I get the tuna, or should I become a senior backend developer at Tutti? This is a great thing. It combines two of your favorite things, your job applications and your food. Now then there's My Services. We all love My Services. There are a lot of nifty little tools in there. Here's one example. If you do your expenses, if you actually go through, there usually is an error, and it tells you, this is really good, it tells you there's a list to the left that explains the problem and how to solve it. And this is how I should solve it. It's info type 001. Great usability, ladies and gentlemen. Now, one of my favorite companies is called Ricardo. If you're above 35 or 40, you might know that company. It's a tremendous tool. If you're on the weekend, let's say you're 35, you decide, hey, I want to sell all my stuff. I'm going to, have a bunch of clothes I want to sell. Let's get some new vintage stuff. You go through the 20-minute registration process, and then, bam, they're going to send you a letter with an activation code within 48 hours. We really love that. That's online to offline. And let's face it, who is not interested in getting a personal letter these days? Another of my favorite is that basically the link color and the text color are the same, so you have to hover your mouse around to figure out which is actually a link. That's good for a memory game. Then we have, ladies and gentlemen, the experience doesn't start with the website, it actually starts with the logo. And what is a better logo than this hand? This hand without the upper part, it's clearly designed for a second-hand marketplace. We really love that. Now another tremendous logo is by Homegate. It's an X for Homegate, which completely makes sense. They could have used a house, they could have used the bed, they could have used an age. They chose the X, which makes sense because it's close to UX. I think that's our favorite. Then there's trend sales. They really are trendsetters when it comes to the game of advertising. Now you got to imagine this whole advertising here, it's blinking, it's exploding, there's fire, there's everything going around, which is really good because it either annoys your customer or drives them away because they click on it, and that's good because you only want to keep those few customers that are really focused on your products. By the way, a tremendous job is done by our friends from Tutti. They actually managed to really make you not be distracted by the actual listings. This is a great example, ladies and gentlemen. Then one of my favorite companies is called AutoRicardo. If you have an ad blocker on, which I of course don't, if you have an ad blocker on, they show you a lot of white space, that's great for designers. Designers love white space, so thumbs up. Another favorite is you click on a car in AutoRicardo, you go to the detail page, you think, great, I see a car. You click on another car, suddenly it's a different detail page. Even the logos are different, the pictures are different. That's really good because two is always better than one. Now, AutoRicardo has an app. I thought that was funny. Now there's actually not one or two, but three different ways how they show prices, how they combine colors. It's really random. They don't explain it at all. This is good. This is really good because most people think they're plain stupid, and you don't want to have stupid testers stupid. You don't want to have stupid people on your app. The last one, then I stop with AutoRicardo, but I really love them, is you go through the registration process. After 20 minutes, you're done, and then bam, you're welcomed by these warnings, phishing SMS, warning, phishing mail, data breach security. That's great. It's a warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Now, one of our favorite companies is called Doodle. If you make an appointment with a colleague, you have this weird little sign there. You click on it, nothing happens. You try to move it, nothing happens, but it doesn't matter because it's a check mark. We love check marks. They rule. Now, jobs.ch, I'm looking for a new job, by the way. I was looking for the head of innovation, of course. And they send you daily a mail with the newest jobs that really fit to you. So they say 4 new jobs, they show you 3. And then you get Servicetechniker am Außendienst Application, Specialist Histopathology, and Global Category Head Cheese. How did they know? That is artificial intelligence. We learned before that is basically blockchain. Now yes. Now I also checked out their app. I'm not making a pause now. I checked out their app, and there I was looking for a CEO, of course. I could be a CEO. And what they recommended to me was the Geschäftsführer in Coop. I think they really see my future in food. So this is really artificial intelligence. By the way, they also have the salary check, and they say the average salary of the CEO is around 132,000. I think what we find out here is that our CEOs are really overpaid, but that's a different topic. Now 20 minutes. 20 minutes has this tremendous video recommendation. It shows you the same video several times, which is good because they really make you watch the videos you don't want to see. We thought about this quite some time. We came up with this optimized version. Another favorite in the publishing sector is Tagesanzeiger. They have this tremendous day pass where for only 2 Swiss francs you have the whole day and you can read whatever you want to. And you think, hey, let's get that 2 Swiss francs day pass, and Tagesanzeiger really makes you pay by going through that 45-minute registration process. It's basically I ask for your entire family history. That's good. You learn a lot about yourself. That's great exercise. I talked to Mark Isler. He unfortunately wants to change that. That would be too bad. Now, ladies and gentlemen, one of my actual favorite websites at Tamedia is called sexup.ch. They have tremendous content, by the way. They have great usability to show you exactly what you're dealing with. We're going to take a closer look at TX 2019. Now, maybe the last example, Renovero. We all love Renovero. It's a hidden gem at Tamedia. They have this plus on the top of their website. No one knows what it's for. You know, it's basically plus, but hey, we're in Switzerland. We love the little cross, the little plus, so it's definitely a recommendation here. And then finally, this is CX, that's cat experience. They have a cat flap configurator. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Renovero. All right, so let's stop the seriousness. We're not perfect. At Tamedia, we do things wrong. That's the wrong slide. Now, let's talk about how things can go wrong. And let's point fingers. I don't do that usually with the media companies, so I'll look at the big boys. There's YouTube. I just was recently trying to put an advertising of my private video on YouTube, and basically it offered me German mark, which is great, but I exchanged all my money. Then there is Apple, and if you have the newest MacBook, it usually crashes once or twice a day. So my mail was crashing, and it said, Name einer Aktivität, der sehr lang sein kann, which is basically great usability. It tells you directly what the problem is. Unfortunately, they got the grammar wrong. It should be D. Now, then there's Facebook with this tremendous captcha. There is Daily Mail with the slightly overdosed information message here. And then there's My Services. Ladies and gentlemen, let's dig right into how shit happens and how to solve it. This is hands-on. Sharpen your pencils. The first question is always, what are the reasons for failure? And how can we succeed? But if you really think, what is the reason why we build sometimes not perfect products? Here's the first answer, CEOs exist. Now, ladies and gentlemen, CEOs are really the worst. Usually, typical CEO sentences are like, I don't like that color. Or it's like, I always do it this way. You see, the I, this personal kind of thing, is very important to them. So you got to learn how to talk to a CEO. Usually it's something like, never say user research shows that green buttons are blah, blah. You lost him right there. You should say the color green is EBITDA relevant. Makes it a lot easier. Now, never say stuff like, we should develop this new feature. It's like, feature, what's a feature? You should say, the new feature is EBITDA relevant. You get the concept, try to apply it at home. Now, actually worse than CEOs are the CTOs. They're really the worst, ladies and gentlemen. They mistrust us product people from the beginning on, and that's just because they think they're better, and usually they are. The problem is you've got to build up trust with these people. CTOs are really their own species, so here's a little chat how to talk to a CTO. Usually it starts with, hi CTO. It's 6:13 in the morning, you got to be early because it takes some time. Then the CTO answers 10 hours later. Hi, Kevin. And then you got to really get them in the conversation. So usually you say stuff like, how is your IT department? They love the word IT. Use that. IT department is something they really, really like. Great. Just 4 hours later, and then you got to dig deep. Next question, be careful. A good example is, could you install this printer driver for me? They're really good at these things. They love it. You say you're the best. You got to shoot something, and then about 4 hours later, it's maybe. That's trust, ladies and gentlemen. That's as far as I've gotten so far. Try it at home. Worse than CTOs are actually budgets. OMG. Now, how to handle budget constraints. We all know that. Now, lie. So, if someone asks you how to spend your money, you got to say stuff like, yes, I need the full-blown Adobe suite. No, user research is not expensive. Or, yes, the table tennis room is great for efficiency. But the most important is always saying, no, we don't need more developers. No one needs more developers. No one's laughing. You're all developers, right? So, worse than actually budgets are designers. Ladies and gentlemen, designers are way too emotional. They really are. So how to talk to a designer? I have a little chat here, how to talk to a designer. Usually it starts with, hi designer. Then the minute after it's, hi Kevin. And then usually it's something like, did you see the newest MacBooks? They're gray. I love gray. We should use more gray in our designs. Talking about gray. Did you Instagram this guy last night? I did. I influenced 487 people. I have a new hey table. It's white, talking about white. And that's way too emotional. That's typical designer. Usually it ends with, hi Kevin, hi Kevin. So how to take care of this problem? You should actually let next year's budget constraints solve the issue. Worse than designers, there's not much worse than designers, but actually worse than designers are customers. Customers, there are way too many of them, so how to deal with them? They always think they know things better than you. They are actually EBT irrelevant, so that's a problem. Now, here's my tip. Do user interviews only with people from your project team. Talk to the elderly, they're usually nicer. But most importantly, why you should not listen too much to your customers, it's because your CEO is your main customer anyway. Now, I think we learned quite a lot. Time is running down. Let's jump right to cats in UI design. And then to some famous last words. Ladies and gentlemen, you know the concept of the cat count. This year we have the RCWC. It's the random complicated word count of 86, which is a ratio of 0.9 compared to last year's RCPC of 59, which was just a ratio of 0.87. This is better, but now think. If you actually combine both, you get an R, which stands for random, of 145. A random of 145 is really good. You should combine cat pictures with complicated words. Here's a tremendous example. It says Scrum. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a very good laundress when I have to be by Mariah Carey. Now, I want to give you an advice in the end. Usually, if you're a product person, you go to job, and let's say 10-ish, you have your coffee, you go to lunch, then you have some time for yourself, and let's say 3 o'clock, you start working, and then think. Ladies and gentlemen, think next time. You're really sitting down. First of all, think about, are your users having a good time? That's very important. Secondly, do you have users? Third question you should ask yourself is, the thing you're working on, is it blockchain or big data? And now, most important of all, and this is really going to pay off, is there UX in your job title? Ladies and gentlemen, there's a UX corner right across the hall here. There are some good-looking, non-experienced people sitting. They're going to answer all your questions that you have about UX. They're going to answer your RQs, your random questions. Then there's a little letter or a little postcard you can fill out and become a beta tester. So the next time we're going to test a Tamedia product, you can actually be part of this. There's an actual footage of the UX corner right there. That's how much fun we have. If you still have any questions, we have an email address. It's ux@yahoo.com. We're going to answer all your questions. Now, before we end this thing, there's a tremendous speak by Jeremy Seitz about music and musings. I personally recommend Saudi Arabia versus Russia. Thank you.